A few weeks ago, I asked you guys if The Simpsons should end with season 40, and with over 180,000 votes, 70% of you said yes. So I decided to dive a bit deeper to find and break down all the reasons why it should end, as well as all the reasons why it shouldn't end. Basically, the pros and cons of each. So let's start with why it should end. The actors. Impressively, The Simpsons have kept the same core cast since the original Tracy Ullman shorts that aired back in 1987, with Harry Shearer and Hank Azaria joining soon after in time for the first full-length episode that aired in 1989, which was 35 years ago, and I'm sure many of you guys, me included, weren't even born back then. So now flash forward to 2025 and Dan Castellaneta is 67, Julie Kavner is 74 and Harry Shearer is 81. So by the time season 40 comes around, yeah, they will all be that much older, which is fine, except for one of the most common complaints that I see about the newer seasons is that there's a noticeable change in the characters' voices due to their age. Marge and Mr. Burns especially sound very different.
It was the best of times, it was the blurst of times, you stupid monkey!
I make more than that in the time it took me to say I make more than that.
And it would be ignorant of me not to agree in saying that they definitely don't sound the same as they did in season 10, or even season 20, or hell, even season 25. Their voices have become noticeably rougher, and I get that it can be distracting for viewers. Especially when it comes to Marge's voice, which is supposed to be raspy in style, but now it can at times just sound quite painful.
Well, I was sure you'd be on foot, because you always say public transportation is for losers.
Reverend, what does our faith say about spending money on something just for yourself?
But even still, this doesn't take away from Kavner's performances. I totally understand this concern, but what I don't is when some fans take it one step further and claim that the actors are being forced to continue, and that they should be allowed to retire. But let's be clear here, the actors are not being forced to stay, and I don't believe that they should be forced out or replaced. They deserve to continue as long as they want to. That said, there's another argument that I keep seeing, and that is that some believe the show should end while the main cast is still active. Because if the show goes on for another 10 seasons, Kavner will be in her 80s and Harry Shearer will be in his 90s. So is it better to end the show while the original actors can still perform? What if one or a few of them just decide to retire one day? Many would rather see the show end rather than watch it continue with a completely new cast. These actors are so tied to their characters that it would just feel wrong if they're replaced, which would inevitably happen if the show just goes on and on. So now there's the next point of contention, the show's declining quality. One of the biggest complaints you hear from long-time fans is that the show peaked with the Golden Age and has been going downhill ever since, although when exactly the so-called Golden Age ended is definitely up for debate, because some people say season 8, some say season 10, others say 12, and a few people even point to season 20. I guess it mostly depends on how old you were when you started watching the show. But yeah, lapsed fans branded the later seasons as Zombie Simpsons, basically calling it unwatchable and a hollow version of what it once was, with many pointing to the departure of key writers as the reason for the slip in quality. Writers that include Conan O'Brien, Bill Oakley, Josh Weinstein, George Mayer, Mike Rice, and John Swartzwelder. There are people who feel genuinely upset that the show has gone on this long and think it should just be put out of its misery. They feel that the newer episodes are slowly destroying the legacy of the show that they once loved. Now look, you all know me as someone who defends modern Simpsons, and I will be talking about some of my favourite modern episodes later on in this video, but I completely understand why many fans feel that the quality has dropped and never really returned to the same level as the quote-unquote Golden Age. Even I think that there was a long stretch where the show really did lose its spark, and I definitely did stop watching for a while. And I've said this before, but I will never ever say that you're wrong if you dislike the newer seasons. If you gave it another chance and it wasn't for you, then I think that's totally fair. But what I do not get is when people say that The Simpsons suck and demand its cancellation without having watched even 1 or 2 episodes in the last decade, or even the last 2 decades. So now we come to the next point, which is a good place to end. All good things must come to an end, and whether you like it or not, The Simpsons will come to a close at some point, and many feel that a round number of season 40 is the perfect place to end it. And maybe it's just me, but ending it with season 41 or 43 would just make me feel a bit itchy. It won't feel right. Plus, by planning to end it by season 40, it would allow the writers time to craft the perfect ending and wrap up many story arcs.
I don't need toys anymore. I've got the ultimate limited edition collectible right here.
And as for fans of modern Simpsons, some feel like it should end while it's still on a high note. Plus, what if they do continue it past season 40 and then Disney decides to cancel it? Isn't it better that it ends on their own terms? And looking at the comments, a lot of you have said that they'd like to see it end with a theatrical movie, basically going out with a big bang and a very large budget. Personally though, although I would love another movie, I'd rather we got a television finale, or at the most an hour TV special. I don't know, it also just feels kind of wrong to make us pay to watch a finale of a show that we've been getting for free for decades.
I can't believe we're paying to see something we get on TV for free.
So I've explained a few reasons why it should end, now let's flip it and reverse it and discuss some reasons why it should continue past season 40. So, jobs. The Simpsons employs hundreds of people, from actors, writers, artists, and animators. So many people rely on the show for their livelihoods. And to that, you may say, well, they can just get another job elsewhere. But it's not that simple. Animation is really struggling right now. According to this 2025 Land of Geek article, Netflix axed about a third of its animation team, Pixar lost 20% of its staff, Warner Brothers, DreamWorks, and others all also followed suit with massive layoffs or restructuring. And by the second quarter of 2024, US animation production had dropped dramatically by 40% compared to 2022. Add to that, and the rise of AI, there's a serious problem about corporations taking jobs from hard-working creatives. According to this article from Computer Graphics World, which interviewed animator Michael Adniel, he said that The Simpsons is the last show to do animation in the United States. And to quote the article, the production staff at Film Roman draws the storyboards, designs new characters, backgrounds and props, and draws character and background layouts, which in turn become animatics that are then screened for the writers at Gracie Films for any changes. And once those changes are made, the work is then shipped overseas, where the in-betweens and the digital ink and paint is done, and then the frames are then returned and edited stateside. So if you cancel The Simpsons, that means that hundreds of passionate people are out of work. So keep in mind that although this is art and entertainment, this is also how people pay their rent, their mortgages, their bills, and support their families. The next reason, the quality. So I've already discussed the perceived drop in quality after the golden age, but in many fans' opinions, including mine, The Simpsons is in a renaissance era, which I think started from about season 33. And although not every single episode has been stellar, there have been some really amazing episodes. Here are just some of my personal favourites. So you have season 33's Pixelated and Afraid, which is genuinely one of the best Homer and Marge episodes that the show has ever done. Even in some of the classic episodes, there's usually a moment where either Homer or Marge questions their future together, but in this one, not once do they doubt their love for each other. It is packed with genuinely beautiful moments, like this scene where they dance together.
I know together we can make a pretty world.
And there's this final scene which is just so emotional.
Don't change anything, Homer.
Don't change anything.
It's a completely original story that is incredibly hard to do when a TV show has been on air for as long as it has. It's really brilliant commentary on long-term relationships that seem mundane, but in reality, getting to the point where you have that security in your partner is really rare and really, really beautiful. Also in that same season, we had A Serious Flanders, which is an incredible non-canon two-parter that spoofs prestige television in a way that the show has never done before. It's dark, cinematic, and completely unlike a typical Simpsons episode. Episodes like this prove that even in its third decade on air, The Simpsons can still surprise us. Yes, it is a departure from the warm, fuzzy feelings of the earlier seasons, but it was supposed to do that, and it's exciting that the show is still taking risks. And in that same breath, we have season 34's Lisa the Boy Scout, which is a fun and very experimental episode.
Good morning, Homer.
It plays with fan theories and breaks the fourth wall in a really, really funny way, taking characters on journeys which we'd never really expect.
Look at me, Dee Dee. I'm the only 36-year-old who can pass for 10!
It takes real creative risks and shows that they are still willing to joke at themselves and also listen to fans and their weird theories. You also had season 35's A Mid-Childhood's Night Dream, which is another standout episode that dives a bit deeper into Marge's emotional journey as a mother. It explores the bittersweet experience of watching your child grow up and learning how to let go. It is one of the best Marge stories ever, and honestly, her voice performance in this was brilliant, despite it being from a modern season. And more recently, you had Bart's Birthday from season 36, which explored what it would look like if the show actually ended. Bart finally turns 11 and we get to see all the characters get their happily ever after. And I could go on and on, Treehouse of Horror 33, I and Marge, but if you would like to be interested in seeing a top 10 or even top 20 best episodes of season 30 onwards, then let me know in the comments. But what I'm getting at here is that The Simpsons is still more than capable of producing really incredible episodes. And the show is still winning awards. So yeah, I'd hardly call The Simpsons a dead show, and I certainly don't subscribe to the term zombie Simpsons either. Next up, a dedicated fan base. If you're one of those who is a die-hard modern Simpsons hater, it might be hard for you to believe that there are people still genuinely loving the show, because millions of people still continue to tune in as new episodes come out. For them, it's a comfort show, it brings them joy, and I've seen countless comments from people saying that they still watch it with their partners and family members every single week. It's what they look forward to. It's also one of the largest streamed TV shows on Disney+. So if the show is doing well critically and viewership-wise, which it is, then why take that away from fans who are still passionate about it? If you're not watching it anymore, why does it matter to you that it's still on the air? It makes no difference to you, but it does make a difference to the people who still care. Some people may argue that keeping the show going risks damaging its legacy, but let's be honest, it's in its 36th season, heading to its 40th. That legacy is already set in stone. I'd understand that concern if it was somewhere around the disappointing season 20 mark, but we are way beyond that now. Now, with all that being said, what do I think? Honestly, I'm a bit conflicted. I feel like season 40 would be the best place to end the show because, like I said already, it means they can build slowly to a final season and not feel rushed to wrap up everything. But at the same time, I wouldn't be mad if they continued past that, because as long as they surprise us with good episodes like they've been doing, then I'm fine with that too. And I get that it may sound like I'm fence sitting, but I don't care. All I care about is getting a good final episode, whenever that may come. It's kind of comforting to know that The Simpsons has been around longer than I am and is still going. It's always there if I want to watch it. Although I do hope that it doesn't actually outlast me, because I do eventually want to see that final episode.
They'll never stop The Simpsons. Have no fears, we've got stories for years.
So with all the pros and cons of keeping the show on air past its 40th season, I ask you this. Should The Simpsons continue? Or should it end? Let me know in the comments below.